Hello, my name is Loyola Rankin. I am one of the college success coaches with the American Indian College Fund. Thank you so much for attending the Spring 2024 Mental Wellness Talking Circle, Session 5. We are very happy and excited that you have taken the time to see to your health and, you know, find that mental wellness, that balance that helps you as a human being, as a scholar, as an Indigenous person. The session will begin here in a few minutes. I would like to ensure that everyone is aware that we will be utilizing the event evaluation for this session to track attendance. So if you could please complete the event evaluation at the end, that just marks that you have attended. So if it is a requirement for, or if it is a scholarship component for your scholarship, we want to make sure that you're fulfilling that aspect. So again, please hang on for the end to complete the event evaluation. Jacelyn will be sharing the link. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce Jacelyn Salabye. Jacelyn is an Indigenous woman with the Navajo Nation tribe, has been a mental wellness professional for many years and has supported many communities. We are very grateful to have her here. I believe she is still in the Arizona area. So definitely appreciate her taking the time to help support us in this journey to mental wellness. Jacelyn, if you want to share a bit more about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Loyola. I always get your name mixed up. I so appreciate you. You're amazing. You're awesome. If you don't know Loyola, she is amazing. Take time to talk with her and joke around because I know you love to joke. Um, it's good to be here. My name's Jacelyn Salabye. I am Dine Kiani Nishla. Tachitni Bashishchin, Tabahan Edishache, Do Twittachitni Edishanala, Akut Alsan Shuan. I'm originally from the Lower Greasewood area, and right now I'm based in Flagstaff, Arizona. And you never know where I'm going to be, right? One minute I'm in Vegas, the other minute I'm in Denver. Like it's so funny because I'll be presenting, they'll be like, "Where are you at now?" So I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona. Great weather. I think we're going to be moving into some thunderstorms, and I'll be in Denver over the weekend. And I think it's supposed to be like 55 degrees there. So today I'm going to talk to you about stress management. In terms of mental health and the importance of talking about mental health and how important it is to think about our self-care and advocate for our self-care, this presentation is what it's about. I'm going to go back and forth in terms of some of the Western modalities, but also some of our traditional perspectives. And the reason why it's important that we have a choice and have a voice in terms of our own mental health and our own care of our bodies. So a little bit more about myself. I've been a social worker for 15 plus years. I have 3 daughters, and I'm first and foremost a mother. My youngest daughter is 4 years old, my middle is 12, and my oldest is 21 in her 2.5 years of college. So I'll pick her brain every now and then, which is amazing and great for me to provide you with the best content available. What else is there? I do come from living in the border town of Winslow, Arizona. And I was born and raised on the Navajo Nation, partly, and then moved into the border town when I was a young child. And a lot of interesting things that played out in my life in terms of, um, you know, just the disadvantages I've experienced, handling and dealing with historical trauma and intergenerational trauma, and just living my life as an Indigenous woman, right? There's so many things that Indigenous women are handling and carrying in terms of creating and maintaining the household, being a professional, maintaining good grades, and standing up for our families, our children, and basically our clans in general, right? So there's a lot that we do as Indigenous women, and also for our Indigenous counterparts, our Indigenous males, how much I think animosity that you face going out in the world. To be an Indigenous male, like I don't know what that is, but I can hear some of the frustrations that come from colleagues, even though they're professionals in the field, they're still experiencing some of these stereotypes, right? They're still being treated a different way. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about, and just keep those in mind as we move forward and we talk about stress management, that it's more than just physical stress. It's more than that. It's emotional. It's what we experience when we're out in the community, when we're out in school, the biases, the discrimination, the racism, all of that intertwined with historical trauma and intergenerational trauma, right? I'm getting you some of you stressed out just talking about that, but it's the reality, right? And I want to come to this being real, straight to the point, no sugarcoating, because we all know it, we all see it, right? Um, and so I wanted to do a brief introduction of each and every one of you. If you want to take time to put your introduction in the chat, I have no problem with that. If you want to come off mute and provide your introduction, first and foremost, I like to welcome each and every one of you to the circle. Like I've said previous times, and I'll say it many times again, you know, I go out into community, I host and co-facilitate and present in many different spaces and places across Indian country, and that's part of my job. I provide grantee technical assistance to many grantees in Indian country, and we like to see your faces, right? We like to talk and share in a circle, and it represents the ceremonial process from my perspective. And it gives everyone a chance to see your face. So I like you to imagine that we're all sitting in a circle. We can all see each other, and you know, we have those good laughs and good jokes when we come together. And so just being aware and being present of one another, remembering that we need to be observant of someone speaking, and that if they're going to speak, they have full attention. I know it's easy to be distracted by phones, messages, text, and all that good stuff. Being aware of what you hear and what you take from this session. I know some people are being very courageous in providing their voice. So be aware of what you're sharing outside of this presentation. Don't be sharing, you know, sensitive information that could harm the individual. And so what stays here, what's said here stays here. I call it the Vegas rule. What you do in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So what you say here stays here. Aside from that, be gentle with yourself and others. Being gentle with yourself, meaning if you say something wrong, don't beat yourself up. If you mispronounce something, that's okay. If you want to speak your native language, that's okay. If you don't, that's okay too. So being gentle with others. Others might come from the same tribe, the same location, and they might do things a little differently. And that's okay, because we have different perspectives, we have different thoughts, we have different walks. And so making sure you're aware of that and being cognizant of that. So I would like you all to provide your name and your tribe. If you have a clan or if you know of it, provide that information. You don't need to do any of this, but we like to get to know you a little bit better. And we would like to make connections, right? That's what we're all about. When you come into the grant world, that's what it's about. It's about making connections, collaborating, networking, same in the business world, right? So provide your name, clan, and then where is your homeland? I know we might be in urban settings, we might be at college, but where is my homeland? And I gave you a piece of information of where my homeland is here in Arizona. Where do you go? So I shortened that. Where do you go? Where do you go to school at? This goes back to my daughter. She's like, you don't even go here. When she says that, I'm like, okay, I know what you mean, that you don't even go to this school or you don't even go to this college, right? And so provide what college you go to or what school, what university, provide that information. And then what do you want to be when you grow up? Some, this is like open-ended, huge open-ended question, because we can be in school, but we still want to do something awesome and amazing, right? I could be going to school for social work, but I still want to be a great mother. I want to travel. I want to be like an awesome chef or baker. So this is like very wide focused, right? And then what's your favorite hobby? I enjoy hearing what hobbies there are, and this builds connection because we can find like-minded people. If I'm a great sewer, if I'm a good beater, if I'm into fashion, or I enjoy books, like those are some of the things that I'm just giving you examples that I like. Um, I love to travel. I love to cook. I love reading recipes. I love reading books in general. I might not read them all. I might collect them on my bookshelf, but that's okay, right? um, I like to delve into piano. I've been looking at um, my piano classes here and there, and they're a little daunting, but I'm taking a healthy risk by trying to learn piano and the notes and making the connection. So I see a lot of activity in the chat. I'm trying to get to it. Just a little difficult with this Zoom setup. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can reach the chat. Okay, there we go. So awesome. We got lots of activity. Take a look at the chat, make some connections. You never know who you're going to meet, right? If you're in a workshop, a classroom, I encourage you to reach out to at least one person. If they have a like-minded, perspective, like he is working on his certification for licensed alcohol and drug counseling, right? If that is part of your interest and you're thinking of going into counseling, like, send an email or, get an email and make that connection, because across Indian country, you'll understand that it's very small. And when it comes to professionals and those who are graduating from college, we're a very small amount in the big picture, right? So making those connections and collaborating is really important. I'll say it again and again. Okay, let's see. If you like softball. Yeah, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Sometimes we feel like we're grown because we're doing adult things, right? But sitting down and thinking about ourselves and taking that self inventory, we might not be that much grown, right? Mentally, emotionally. And I say that because a lot of us struggle with some of the traumas and some of the situations that we haven't addressed in our lives. I'm not afraid to say that I do go to counseling, and I've been, working on my mental health because I've come from, a line of depression and alcoholics. And so I have to be conscious and aware of what I take into my mind, body, soul, and spirit, um, and to ensure that I'm living a healthy life, right? And so that I can pass on this information that I'm giving to you today. And so I do see connections being made in the chat. Awesome, amazing, keep doing it. And I see some discussions that are great. Thank you for doing that. That's only benefiting you and your time here. So we're going to go into a little talking circle, and then we'll do education after. So if you're brave and want to take a healthy risk and share some information, and I will preface before this that that the information shared will be deleted during the editing of this video. And the information that's going to be shared when you provide your stressor, you're going to provide us with the way you cope with it, whether it's healthy or not healthy. Because, hey, we're not perfect, right? We all mess up. We all might have some unhealthy coping skills, right? I'm going to turn off my camera because my video is going slow. Hold on 1 second. So if you would like to come off mute and share with us one stressor you are currently experiencing and how you hope to, how you cope with it or handle it, whether it's healthy or not healthy, that's fine. And if you want to put it in the chat and I can read it, that's totally fine too. So anybody willing to take an awesome, healthy risk right now in sharing your stressor? Thank you for sharing. When it comes to time management, I know some of us might struggle with that area. I really appreciate you for sharing that piece of information about yourself. Sometimes it feels scary, right? When you share, and it feels a little like icky and vulnerable. But I think, sharing that piece of information will essentially be helping others to like, yeah, I do struggle with that piece, or yeah, I do have a hard time trying to figure out how to handle my time, right? So if you struggle with time management, maybe you can put in the chat as well how you handle and cope with that. I know growing up, that was a really difficult thing for me, and I was just like willy-nilly, whatever, just all over the place, right? And then we go through these classes, and I'm a journal person. I love journals. I love calendars. I love those Lisa Frank stationery stuff. Those things were like, yes, I love those. So when it came to like writing things out, I always turn back to those little pocket-sized agenda books, and I would always write in my what I need to do. But now that I have my cell phone, I use my Google Calendar as a time management piece and a scheduling out my day. So if you have any cool tips, tricks, apps, websites that can help, put them in the chat, link them. That's awesome. Anybody else? Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's a really important piece, is kind of like you have so much work to do and you feel like giving up, right? And I think a lot of us have been there. It becomes so overwhelming that like, what do I do? It's easier to just throw everything up and just be like, oh, whatever. But you stick in there, you stay to it, right? And you don't give up. And so one thing that you mentioned is not having enough time to take care of yourself. And I believe there's a comment in the chat saying not getting enough walking steps every day. And stating, she has diabetes. And so I have to keep moving. I need 1,000 more today. And so what are some ideas, if we could possibly put some of these ideas in the chat of how we can make more time or clear our schedule to incorporate more self-care? I think sometimes, when I'm on a meeting, I'm standing at my desk. That's one simple thing, and I'm doing either stretches on my legs, or I'm walking in place and I'm just doing something to keep myself busy, right? To keep my body moving. If you have any other suggestions, put them in the chat. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go into the chat and look for some topic areas. Let's see, because I see a lot of good stuff. And I know we might not have time to go over every single one. Preparing for the second board exam in medical school. Coping by exercising. Awesome. One of the biggest stressors is coursework. Running is the way to cope for this individual. Let's see. I just lost my place. Okay. Notepads to keep a list of things I need to get done during the day. That's for time management. And then we have the big stressors, right? We have the giant stressors that can cause us some time to get over and time to move through our body. And those are things and having some Navajo healing ceremonies to cope with this, as well as counseling. And these things take some time to move through, right? They take time to address, they take time to discuss and move through. We really don't really get rid of them mentally and emotionally because they're so big, right? But it is good to at least find some coping ways to handle it, to think about how we handle those emotions, how we handle those thoughts, the gloom and doom and the unknown, right? Which can cause a lot of anxiety. So, reaching out to get healing ceremonies, whatever tribe you come from, in this case, Navajo healing ceremonies, and going to counseling at Agshess and the Time app to help cope. Awesome. Genetics class is hard with drinking energy drinks and studying as much as I can. I know, right? At least you're honest. You're saying this is what I do and this is how I cope, right? Sometimes energy drinks might not be too beneficial for us in terms of our health, but they can give us energy, right? And so, yeah, I like that you're being honest. You put everything in my phone. Yes, like I do. Anxiety. I see a lot of comments about anxiety, social anxiety. Some of the ways that are being utilized for coping is attending events and getting myself out of my comfort zone, right? Okay, cool. Sometimes it might feel scary, right? Like I was saying, at least you're getting out there, you're trying. I make lists, probably make too many, and try not to get crazy about my list because I tell myself I don't get it all done. That's okay. Yeah. And, that's something that was stated, right? In terms of time management, making a list by the class or making a list by the topic area, right? That's kind of what I do too, is put a topic area on there because my list can be like 3 pages long. Oh my gosh. And I get overwhelmed. Getting anxiety because it's the end of the year. Have a lot of time to turn it around. I feel like motivation's been slipping, but at the same time, I have no time. I don't cope with it well since I've been thinking about it and trying to ignore it. I know, right? Sometimes we do that. We just like out of sight, out of mind, right? Just hide it underneath that notebook, done, right? No, it's gonna come back out and then creep up on you. And that goes the same for like finances and bills. Facing hard situations that you just want to put it out of sight and out of mind, right? But coming face to face and taking a look at everything that's going on is how you're going to handle that, right? So I feel like you have some time to turn it around, like you said. That is important. Figuring that out, that's not ignoring it. Biggest stressors is the inflation and trying to help my loved ones as much as you can, and taking care of yourself because you can't help someone if you don't help yourself, right? Living on the reservation, there's no justice or accountability. Yes, the fear of calling the police. Non-tribal members hold more power for us members. Yeah, that's a big component. And like I was saying in the beginning, the bias discrimination, racism, and that takes into account systemic racism, right? And how much stress that gives us, toxic stress, right? And we can experience a sense of grief and loss when it comes to this piece of systemic racism. How do you cope? How do you handle? I think that's something that we have been talking about for years. And, you know, I do research as much as I can, and I talk to other like-minded people. We kind of get into a lot of the political stuff around that, but it is a big thing and it's a huge undertaking, right? All I can say is practice those healthy coping skills, reach out to like-minded people, be in the presence of those who are positive, and creating those sense of network that you have a sense of safety, right? Reaching out to a friend who can help you, and or going to a therapist. I know this is a huge piece. Not getting enough walking steps every day. Oh yes. Let's see. And there was a comment that was made. Walking around can go a long way bit by bit. Yep. Even if it's 15 minutes, right? Scheduling on your time, put a timer on your phone. I love my timer on my phone. I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do 15 minutes of Pilates. Like, okay, set my timer, and I'll just hurry up and just do it. I think that's a good motto for some of us who have not faced what we need to face. Stressing out at work, going for a walk, overwhelmed, procrastination, a lot of health issues. So the health issues are and school, and so addressing more of the school by setting timers and alarms, keeping on task. I know end of semester presentation can be hectic, and doodling in the sketchbook sure helps. Awesome. And so I appreciate you all sharing time management, micromanagement, and more awesome chats and more encouragement, and people are connecting and collaborating. If you have insight into some of the things that are being shared, you know, reply and respond to someone. And we're building that sense of networking, right? We're building that sense of community, because sometimes in Indian country, we can't just reach out to someone. Sometimes, you know, I hear this a lot, is we live by IHS, right? And all the counselors are related to me, right? And I can't just go there because I'm going to be talking about someone who we're related to, and I have a fear that's going to be shared, right? So sometimes we have to turn to those informal supports. Who are your informal supports? If you can name 1, 2, 3 people that you can turn to when things get rough, kind of take a minute to sit and think about that. Who can I turn to when I need to talk to someone? Think about that. Who can I turn to when I'm in a crisis? Think about that. Who can I turn to when I am desperate and I need to talk to someone at any hour of the day? Think about that, because, you know, sometimes our mental health, our thoughts and our feelings become so big, and we think there's nothing else that can help us, right? And I'm preaching to the choir in terms of our mental health, but it's really important, and it's a basic component of who we are. And so I really want you to think about, who can you reach out to? Who are the 3 people you can reach out to? Because I don't want you to go through what you're going through alone. I don't want you to sit and struggle and isolate yourself, or have to think that, you know, there's no option. I would hate for you to do that. And if at any time you need to talk to someone and you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling a sense of there's nothing that anyone can do, please reach out. I know that we have our awesome individuals on the line. I know Julio was on. I know Loyola was on. And there's even me. If you need to reach out to me, I'm available. I know that we have these hotlines, 988, that we can reach out to if you want to text or call for assistance. If you're having a mental health, what do you call it, crisis, this is the people to talk to. But I could be what do you call it? A support. I'm losing my words. So, did you think of the 3 people? If you did, send me some sort of emoji or a reaction, because that's really important. I would hate for you to go through things by yourself. Okay, I see one. Awesome. Yes, 988 is a national hotline. It used to be the suicide prevention helpline. And so if you go on your phone, dial 988, it'll reroute you to your nearest mental health service. And they will screen your call and decide, where to send you based upon your crisis. And if you're there to talk, there's mental health professionals who are on the line. And so that's important. That's a little commercial for 988. And I just really want you all to be safe and to be healthy and to be well. That's really important when it comes to Indian country, because we have such high rates of loss through suicides. And I do not want to have to talk about that, but it's something that we do have to talk about, right? I know it's, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. So, as you can see, we have a big amount of stress that we deal with, right? We have, it's draining us mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? And it might involve us, it might involve others, it involves some sort of external piece that we cannot control, right? Learning to cope with it with prayer, whatever power you believe in, whatever higher power you believe in, whether that's Jesus, creator, what faith you believe in, I really encourage finding prayer, but if you're atheist, that's totally fine too. So I would like to move on. I see that there are more in the chat. If you could please, respond to some of these. I know that I can't get to every one of them. And I know that each one of your comments is important. And I really appreciate you all for sharing what you need to share. And take this as a sounding board. Take this as you putting out your words into the universe and, saying a good thoughts and good words for each one of you as we move through our lives and balancing and juggling all these different things, right? So I'll keep you all in my good thoughts and good prayers, and I'll do a smudge after we're done to ensure that, some of these things that were said here and expressed, that they are given to Creator and that we have good thoughts and good intentions moving forward. And so I'll do that after we end here. Let me admit more people in from the waiting room, and we will transition over into talking about the medicine wheel and the circle of life. And so this piece is more of discussion about what is stress and what is self-care. So if you take into consideration what stress is, it could be a positive or negative experience, and most of the time it's uncomfortable. And so when we experience stress, it's a state of worry or a mental tension caused by a difficult situation. And like I said, it can be big or small, and it's a natural human response. It's natural. That response prompts us to address challenges and threats in our lives. And so there's different types of stress. So we have, um, I'll list those here in a minute, but there's also the counterpart to this is self-care, right? Self-care is really important. I am going to talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness, and I included those 8 dimensions into the medicine wheel, like you see here in this visual. So you see physical, social, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, environmental, financial, and occupational. And those are the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so each one of us is comprised of these areas in a Western perspective, right? But when we look at us as Indigenous people, we look at the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental side of us. Um, and I know each one of us comes from different tribes. We might have a different type of medicine wheel that has different colors and different aspects around it. But taking into consideration these 4 areas, they're very important to understanding who we are and what we possess as humans, right? And so taking a look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, it's really an important piece in understanding how we can take an inventory of ourselves in terms of our self-care. And I'll link a resource at the end that's really helpful, and I do it all the time. I think about some of these pieces like financial. Am I being stressed financially? Am I experiencing some intellectual stress because of all of the tasks that I have on the back of my shoulders? I have tests, I have exams, I have papers to write. Is that something that you're experiencing? If yes, how are you establishing a sense of self-care? And so the definition for self-care is protecting your own well-being, your own happiness, especially in the time of stress. So we might feel stress in many different ways, right? We're not all the same. Stress can come out physically. I know some people who have headaches, they have neck and shoulder pains. They might be extremely hungry, or they might not be hungry at all, right? You could have some heavy chest, anxiety type of chest pains, back pains, upset stomachs, lump in your throat, or you just cry, right? And that's okay. And that's something that your body is telling you that something's wrong, right? And you need to address it. So keep that in mind, that it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It's just a natural response that your body is telling you, hey, Jacqueline, something's wrong with you, your stomach, like you need to address this. How are you going to address this, right? So keep that in mind. In terms of self-inventory, I like to use, I just write all these 8 areas on a paper, and I kind of like a pie, I put it in 8 different areas in a circle. And the way I do a self-inventory is I ask myself questions. I ask myself, the first question is, what stress am I currently experiencing? And I write it down in those areas: physical stress, social stress, spiritual, environmental, financial. I'm not following a budget. My bills are past due. Occupational. I'm having stress at work. Um, you know, it feels like my boss doesn't listen to me and is undermining my comments that I feel would be great to benefit the organization, right? Or social, like some gossip is flying around about me. How do I address that? And so these are some real tangible items that we have in day-to-day life. So take a minute to do that self-inventory. I really encourage it. And then when you're done with that, flip it over and do one, the same circle, cut it in 8 different ways like a pie, and put the same physical, social, and mental, emotional, intellectual, financial, occupational, spiritual, environmental. Put it on there, and then you're going to devise a self-care plan. how do you take care of yourself? And what are you currently doing now that's healthy and positive? And so some examples could be, you know, watching what I eat. What are the foods I'm taking in? How am I breathing? How am I moving? Um, some of the boundaries around you, that could be the physical and social part of it. What boundaries are you putting up to prevent yourself from being exposed to certain people or certain situations? And those boundaries are healthy and sometimes they're needed. And who are you allowing around you? Who are you hanging out with? Who are your friends who are influencing you? And some people might not be healthy, right? So keep that in mind. And then watching what you're thinking. I know a lot of us have some of those negative thoughts, right? I have negative thoughts all the time, but managing and diverting those thoughts is what's important, and twisting them around so that they can be positive or a positive aspect comes out of them. So meditation, praying can be helpful. So writing down a journal of how many times in a day you think of these negative thoughts can be helpful. I know someone struggled with that like 2 years ago. And so writing it down was really important and really diving into where this negative thought is coming from. Um, finances, budgeting, goals, creating boundaries. I know, man, I love to go to Target and buy everything on the shelf because it looks so cool. But when I get home and I look at my receipt and I look at my bank account, that's where everything goes to, yeah, you know. So take the time to do that. I went over what stress is. We can have positive stress, like having a baby, right? That's a positive stress. But when it comes to finances and all this stuff, that gets into tolerable, right? And tolerable is basically taking more time to get rid of the stress hormones. Tolerable could be something like, what's an example? A relationship difficulty, right? Because we all have those awesome relationships. And sometimes they're hard, they're not easy. And an argument that can last for hours can be detrimental to our mental health sometimes. And getting over those anger hormones and those stress hormones that come in our body, the tolerable, that those hormones are going to last a little bit longer than a positive stress. And so those tolerable hormones will take a while longer to recover in your body. The toxic stress could be something like an accident, like a car accident, or um, being exposed to violence. And those toxic stress hormones could stay in your body for a long time. Chronic stress, in terms of how you were raised, if you were raised around a traumatic event or the loss of parents, that toxic chronic stress can stay in your body for years and years and years, right? And it can cause some really hard times, whether it's coming into contact with a chronic disease or um, coming into realization that you have like diabetes, or you have severe depression or severe anxiety, um, or you're just giving up, and that's where you're headed. That chronic stress can cause a lifetime of difficulties across the board. So I'm going to say this again, counseling is really important. Talking it out, expressing it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that's very important. So that way you're getting that stuff out, whatever happened to you. I know there's a belief in my culture that when something bad happens, like a trauma, a crisis, you take a deep breath, like, right? Because you get so shocked and you get so like scared, right? And so you take this deep breath and you're essentially you're inhaling all of that, right? You're inhaling all that happened, whether it's sight, smell, feel, you're inhaling it. And so when I say that, and you go to ceremony and you go to these healers and traditional practitioners to get out this trauma, that's kind of something that they're looking at is, at that time you inhaled all this bad stuff. And so how are we going to take it out of you? And so from my perspective, thinking about it in terms of these 4 areas of the medicine wheel: physical, emotional, spiritual, and mentally, how do we take and get rid of those traumas? How are we talking about it physically? What are we doing? Are we exercising? Are we stretching? I do Pilates, I do yoga. That really helps me to focus on my body, the mind and body connection that I have. And then my thoughts. What are my thoughts? Are they negative? Are they positive? Spiritually, am I praying? Am I feeling connection to a higher power? Am I going to ceremony? Am I contributing in that way? Environmentally, is my space and place, is it nice? Is it free of clutter? Again, in my belief, bugs and things that are crawling around might not be a good indicator of how we're living, right? Sometimes in my growing up, they would always say, that's a bad sign of poverty and it's a bad sign of things that are lurking, right? And so you have your teachings, you have your customs, you have your beliefs. And so turn back to those and really think about that. And we have some of these teachings that were brought down from our grandfathers and our grandmothers and our mothers and our fathers that really provide us with what we were supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. So take those into consideration because those are very important. So what are some examples of healthy coping skills? And I gave you a few. Writing out goals in each one of those areas. So on the outside of your circle, on your self-care plan, write out some goals that are realistic. Financially, I'm going to save $10 every single paycheck. And I'm going to use that to buy myself something amazing at the end of the semester, right? It could be simple as that. What are my occupational goals? What are my spiritual goals? Is it to attend a ceremony one time this year? Is it more of a Bible-based goal of I'm going to read the Bible once a week? Emotional. What is my goal to be emotionally healthy and well? Is it starting to journal? Is it writing down my thoughts and my feelings and journaling it and then going back and looking at what I felt on that day and how did I process this? Is it doing a check-in every single day of how I'm feeling, what emotions I have? Why did I think that certain way and why did that pop up? Is that something that you can do? So those are just some ideas. Creating a to-do list. I know we talked about to-do lists. My to-do list can go miles and miles long, but this could be helpful in terms of your goals. How do you achieve those goals? And after you write out your goals, put down like 1 or 2 things. I'm going to research budgets, right? Or I'm going to research some prompts on journaling, or I'm going to research Pilates and finding some YouTube videos on healthy stretches and trauma-informed Pilates, something like that. I don't know. It's all up to you because you all are different and I know you have different interests. Self-control. Self-control is very important. Being mentally strong and having the ability to say no. It goes with time management and how well that we're going to stay on time when it comes to friends wanting to go out and celebrate after 9 p.m. when in reality you have to be back at your dorm, you have to be studying for your exam tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., right? And so having the control and the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to stay for 10 more minutes and I got to dip out. Like, I got to study because I have a test tomorrow. Oh, come on, just stay. No, I have to go back and study. Practicing saying no is very important. I had the problem of not having the ability to say no. And it didn't hit me until midway through my time at an organization where I finally was like, yeah, I have the ability to say no. I can say no. So I'm going to practice that because you do have a choice. And the last part, being gentle with yourself, because we are not perfect. We're going to slip up and you're going to fall, right? But the important thing is that you get up, dust yourself off, and try it again. And that's the important part. Being gentle and saying, I'm not perfect. I'm going to try it again. Being gentle and saying, it's okay. I made a mistake. It's okay. Right. So, that is stress. And this visual is basically a stress thermometer. I use it when I'm kind of thinking about myself in terms of getting stressed out. Like, what do I look like when I'm normal? I write that down on this little thermometer. I'm breathing fine. I'm sitting upright. My hands are in front of me. Um, I'm focused. My eyes aren't darting everywhere, right? And then looking at a little stress, what is that? Fidgeting. My fingers are fidgeting. Moderately stressed, I might be like, my eyes are shifting, my fingers are fidgety. Very stressed, my heart rate might go up. I'm getting more anxious. I'm pacing. Extremely stressed, I might be pacing a lot more. I might be like cussing. I might be going into gloom and doom. I might be unable to sleep. So taking this information and taking this visual, writing out for yourself when you know that you need a little bit more help or you need to address something. This is very important. So take this, use it how you want to, pull it out every now and then. I used it with my family one time. I was like, tell me how are you on this thermometer of stress, right? And they all came back to me like moderately stressed. I'm very stressed. And I'm like, oh my goodness. What are you doing right now? And so it really does help to indicate where you are and maybe loved ones why they are acting a certain way. Trauma-informed Pilates is basically understanding that people are coming from different paths in life, and that trauma-informed is being aware that everyone comes from different areas and they might have trauma in their background. And so Pilates is more of a breathing focus approach as opposed to a strength-based approach, like not a strength positive based, like a strength, like exercise strength type of approach. So and then the other part of this is we learn from our environment. What are you learning? And so I talked about this a little bit previously about what we're bringing into our environment. What are we bringing into our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual part of ourselves? And what are we learning, right? Creating those healthy boundaries, saying and voicing that you have a choice. So I say this every time. We've experienced many trials and tribulations. We went through a lot of different policies and laws that told us we have to do a certain thing, right? We were forced into boarding school. We were forced into religion. We were forced into long walks. We were forced into making food where we didn't have food, right? And so we were forced into creating fry bread when we didn't have anything to eat, right? So when I say that we have voice and choice, that's what I'm referring to. We have a choice. You have a choice now. Our ancestors didn't have a choice. They were told every single thing and how to do it, right? So now that you are here and you are a product of the ancestors who had the resiliency, had the ability to survive, you are here now. And you're a product of their prayers. You are a product of years and years and years of prayers. And so I give that and I want to reflect that back to you and say, you have a choice. You have the ability to live a healthy life. You have the ability to complete your education. You have the ability to live and have a healthy family. And so I want to have you sit with that for a minute and say, I have a choice. And those are very powerful words that I want to give to you tonight. I have a choice, right? So think about some of the things that you learned through your life from your parents. What did they give you in terms of living a healthy life, having advocating for self-care? Is it exercise? Is it ceremony? Is it the kinolta, which showed you many aspects of life, right? Which is the puberty ceremony for Navajo and Diné women. Is it running? Is it I don't know what else there is. I'm trying to blink. Even if your father or mother was an alcoholic, they still showed you something, right? They showed you that they had resiliency. They showed you that they were able to step every single day, regardless of their addiction, right? They had humor. What did your elders show you? My elders, what did they teach me? They taught me to always clean up after myself. They taught me to be respectful. They taught me that I don't know everything. They taught me to stretch. They taught me to laugh. They taught me to take things seriously. They taught me to be humorous and don't take things seriously, right? And so, what did you learn at school? And you're all in school, you're all learning. What do you learn about your self-care, your mental health in school? Think about that. Social media, I know there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of self, what do you call it? Sorry, I'm trying to blank. There could be some sense of shame when it comes to viewing what others have that you don't have, and so coming to terms with loving who you are and what you have as an individual is very important before diving into social media. I've gotten off of Facebook because it takes too much of my time. I had to jump off. I had to fast from it because it was starting to become an issue. And so I chose to get off social media. No, get off Facebook. I'm still on Instagram. Work. What is work really providing for you in terms of self-care? What are they relaying? What messages are they giving? Does your work environment encourage a hostile environment? That's a good question because that's a question that you can take to someone and start that, discussion on creating a safe place for you to work. That's really important. And so let me do a time check. Ooh, coming up, top of the hour. And here are the resources. So self-care plan, doing what matters in times of stress. I know that's a huge document, but it goes in very much detail into how to handle stress. A lot of good examples of how to handle stress. I included the stress thermometer and the 8 dimensions of wellness. This resource gives a lot of information about the 8 dimensions, goes into very big detail, and it provides you information on, how to create a plan of action. And then managing stress during uncertain times. This is a YouTube video. I will link the resources in the chat as soon as I'm done with this presentation if you want to stick around and get those, or you can take a picture. Just keep in mind that managing stress during uncertain times, There's a space between the S and the H right there, just so you don't get it mixed up. Or you can just go into YouTube and search Managing Stress During Uncertain Times. It's about an hour long, a lot of good information. And I think it pertains a lot to COVID. So I will leave you with these few words. In terms of choice and voice, the Navajo word is basically it is up to you, right? It is up to you. It is up to you, right? It's up to you to have that decision, and it's up to you to build what you want to build. And so I'm going to end this session. I thank you for joining me, for being here. If you have any questions, I'm going to link all the resources in the chat. I'll try to come on video again. Let me do this quick. And I encourage you to take the survey. Let me link it real quick. Survey sending right now, everyone in the meeting. Okay, take the survey, please. I know American Indian College Fund depends on that immensely. I'm going to link in there the self-care plan and all of these resources, copy, share, and I appreciate you all being here, taking the time out to spend time talking about self-care, stress management, mental health is very important for you. So I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And I will link my email address in the chat, which I keep forgetting. If you have any questions or need additional resources, I can send you that information. Awesome. You guys are so awesome. I love that there's a lot of interaction between you. It really shows how much you care for one another. I really appreciate you all. Before I start crying, no, I'm just kidding. I will say good night, good journeys, good studying. I know we're coming up to the end of the semester. Do some good self-care for yourself. And I appreciate you all. Have a good night. And see you again next time, right? Go on it.